Hi guys, welcome back to another true crime story. Thank you so much for coming back to join me today. I know I still have part 2 of Dennis Nielsen to upload for you guys, but honestly I needed a break from that story. I put so much research into it that I need a break before I can actually edit the footage and go through it all again. So since it is Halloween, I decided to do a somewhat, because I'm such a wimp, scary story. Well, what I thought was scary. Now I just think it's batshit crazy. You've been here before? Hello. If not, hi guys, my name's Aodain. How you doing? Welcome to Addys World. I'm new here to YouTube and I do a bit of true crime, a bit of beauty and everything in between. I have a good few unboxings coming up. One is an Etsy one and one is a Jeffree Star mystery box. I'm hoping they'll be here soon. If that sounds like something you're interested in and you want to join me on this journey of true crime cases or beauty or just to have a relaxed cup of tea and enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, make sure the bell is turned on for all the upcoming notifications. Okay, what story I have decided to do, it's not really scary. I have decided to do the Amityville horror house. Yes. What's based on the book and everything like that is the horror story, but it's actually what came before the story of the Lutzes that was batshit crazy and the true horror story. So I am going to quit yapping and we are going to jump right in. Okay, so we all know what the Amityville horror house looks like. A house that is said to have 2 eyes that look at you. It does look like it's watching you. This beautiful house is in Amityville, which is about 30 miles outside New York City. Where this whole story starts, the family, the DEFEOs. The DEFEOs consisted of Ron Sr., Louise, Ron Jr. or Butch, Dawn, Allison, Mark and John Matthew. Moved into this idyllic home in Amityville. Ron Sr.'s dad owned a big car dealership. The name DEFEO, they were an Italian family. Some people like to say there could have been some connections to some mob ties. I don't know. I'm just telling you what everyone else says. They moved out of Brooklyn into this beautiful house. Actually had named it High Hopes. Well, if that isn't a bit of foreshadowing, guys, we'll start with Daddy Dearest. Ron Sr. Supposed to be an alcoholic, absolute shitbag. He was so aggressive, abusive, he used to hit his wife Louise, kick the shit out of her, and also one child that took the brunt of it was Ronald Jr. For ease, I'm going to call him by his nickname, which is Butch. Butch basically was taking the brunt of his dad's beatings. He was knocked against the wall a few times. There was a query of a head injury. Yeah, he took most of the beatings, but as he got older, Butch started to fight back. Butch was taking none of Ron Sr.'s shit. But the problem with Butch is bullied sometimes becomes the bully. And this happened to Butch. He became aggressive to his family, to school, to teachers, so much that his parents decided that they would take him to see a psychiatrist. Butch was having none of that either. In true fashion, to make everything better, his parents decided to buy him anything his heart's desired. Because that always fixes the problem. But when he was 15, he got a $14,000 speedboat. 15-year-old needs a speedboat. He's not even legally allowed to drive. What the fuck's he need a speedboat for? I digress. The reason was they did this if Butch was never unhappy, he could never get angry and take it out on everyone. I mean, he went so far as threatening one of his friends on a hunting trip with a gun and then the next day kind of pretending it never happened. And he even went as far as had a 12-gauge shotgun, put it to his father's head and pulled the trigger. Only for the gun malfunctioning, Ron Sr. would have been dead. And by 17, he was on LSD and heroin, full-time user, kicked out of school. So what do you do when a child is like that? Of course, even one of the highest paid jobs in their car dealership. You pay him, you give him the best position, and then you also give him a weekly allowance, which was going on cars, alcohol, and drugs. It came to a head when Butch was in charge of depositing 20 grand in the bank. He was given the money, given the responsibility, and said, you bank money. Simple. But Butch himself thought he wasn't getting paid enough, so he decided to stage the robbery of the 20 grand with his friend and split the money. His dad believed him. He was like, oh God, he got robbed, oh poor Butch, poor this. But when the police came to him and almost like questioned any suspects, did you know what they looked like, Butch flipped his shit and would not cooperate. Therefore, in Ron Sr.'s head, he was like, did he? When Ron Sr., the dad, challenged Butch, Butch turned around and said, I will kill you. I would say that's foreshadowing, but it's not really. He just came out and told him what he was going to do. So then we go to the night of the 13th of November 1974 at 3:15. Butch decided he would go into his bedroom, get a 35 caliber Marlin rifle, go to his parents' bedroom, shoot both his parents twice in the back. From there, he went into Mark and John Matthews' bedroom. Mark, 12 at the time, and John Matthews, 9 at the time, and shot them both. Then went to his sisters, Alison and Dawn. Alison seemed to have been shot at close range. Dawn had the most vicious gun wound. She had it directly close up to her face, and it is said that half of her face was unfortunately blown away. But wait, after all this, Butch decided he would go have a shower, trim his beard, get dressed, put on his boots, and go to work. He discarded his bloody clothes and the gun into a pillowcase, and on his way to work he actually discarded them in a storm drain. But this made Butch arrive to work at 6 a.m. in the morning. This fella was lazy, did feck all, and got paid for it. So him arriving at 6 o'clock should have been a red flag. He claimed he didn't know why his dad hadn't turned up for work. He kept ringing the house and was like, geez, I don't know why Dad's not here. At 12 o'clock, pissed off, and went hanging out with his friend. And when he was hanging out with his friends, he still tried to give himself an alibi. He kept ringing the house and made it known to his friends, oh, nobody's answering at the house. I don't know why anyone answering at the house. So it was said then near 6 o'clock, or at 6 o'clock, he was drinking with a group of friends in Amityville in a pub near the house. And at 6 o'clock, Butch was like, oh, yeah. Oh, is that the time? I better go check on my family that I haven't been able to reach all day. Cause I've phoned them a few times. A while later he came back into the pub screaming that help, I think my parents have been shot. Crime scene was discovered. The Suffolk police then were summoned and they started their investigation, and they actually said to Butch, is there anyone that you would think any enemies of the family? So Butch decided to tell a story that Louis Fellini, who was a mobster hitman, he had pissed him off in some way, or the family had pissed him off in some way. He's the only person I can think that would have a grudge against our family and that could do this. So the police were like, we better put Butch in protective custody. But, however, police were like, the more they investigated, something's not right here. First of all, Butch said when he left the house that morning to go to work, all his family were alive as far as he was concerned. As I said, the more they investigated, they were like, the family are 1, still all in bed, 2, all in their pajamas, and 3, all facing down. So there's no way it happened after Butch went to work. There's no way somebody would have caught all of them fast asleep while Butch went to work. That's not happening, kid. And then the police also found an empty box of a 35 Marlin rifle box in Butch's room. So they brought Butch in for interrogation, and here is where you can say Butch starts to change his story. He was like, actually, I was there when the Fellini guy came in with another guy. They held me at gunpoint and brought me to each room as they killed all my family. members. And eventually they were like, that didn't happen either, Butch. Okay, hands off it. Okay, I did it. Quote, once I started, I couldn't stop. It happened so quick. And when the police investigated, they did say it happened within the matter of 15 minutes. This happened on the 13th of November. On the 14th of November 1975, the trial started for Butch. His lawyer was called William Weber. He decided he wanted Butch to go with the insanity plea. You know how I like to put my little red flags? Haven't done it yet. So we actually had a psychiatrist come in, and for the defense he said Butch suffered a neurotic dissociative disorder. He had diminished responsibility. He really didn't know what he was doing. But clever prosecution actually had their own psychiatrist come in, and he said Butch actually suffered from antisocial personality disorder, motivated by his own self-centered attitude, which meant that Butch knew well what he was doing. So on the 21st then of November, barely a week later, he was then fucked off to Greenhaven Correctional Centre in Beekman, New York, and every appeal he's had since then has been denied. Now I will tip back into this Butch's changings of stories. So I'm going to talk about a few different facts about the DeFeo murders that have people querying a few things about it. So I mentioned that all family members were shot in the back. Everybody was found face down. People to this day cannot understand how the 4 other children did not move. It was proven that their bodies were not moved, they were not drugged, there was no silencer, and when you think about it, there was 8 shots of a rifle and no neighbours heard any gunshots. It's a shotgun, like, it makes a hell of a noise. Neighbours do remember around 3 and 4 the family's dog barking, but no shots. So people cannot understand. But they did do a sound test, and you could hear the blast of that shotgun up to a mile away. So nobody knows how in the name of God nobody moved. So then there was a theory, was there a second shooter? Did somebody help Butch? Again, don't know. Never proven, never disproved. Butch then did go to change his story, saying Dawn, his sister, had an argument with their parents, so she went in, shot her parents, and then she just went on a rampage and shot the members of the family as well. And Butch came in and shot Dawn. So all he should have been charged with was the shooting of Dawn. That was one story change. Dawn had shot her dad, that her mum had woken up, couldn't live with it, shot Dawn, but shot every other member of the family, and then Butch shot his mum. Butch cannot be believed. He's changing his story so many goddamn times. In Butch's trial in 1975, when William Weber wanted him to go for the insanity plea, Butch had mentioned he heard voices in his head that told him to kill the family. The jury didn't believe it anyway and still convicted him. Another thing I found so interesting, Butch is not classed as a serial killer. He's actually classed as a mass murderer. Definitions of what the FBI classes as a serial killer are a mass murderer. And a serial killer's definition is the unlawful killing of 2 or more victims by the same offender in separate events. While a mass murderer is a number of murders, but it has to be 4 or more occurring during the same incident, no distinctive time period between the murders. I just found that interesting. We'll come back to William Weber as I proceed to the next part, which is what we all know as the Amityville Horror. So, 11 months after George and Kathy Lutz decided that dream home, the house was cheap, they walked in, they said they discussed it as a family, they knew the history, they all talked about it, they felt comfortable enough to go into the house, let's buy it, let's move in. Kathy had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl from a previous marriage. When the house was being sold, the furniture was still included it, the only thing that had been changed were the mattresses. It was sold off at an extra $700 and they were like, we'll take it. You not buy furniture from a house that had 6 murders in it. You're just asking for trouble. Before they moved in, they had a priest come to almost cleanse the house. The story goes that he was told to get out, and he also said to Kathy there was one bedroom that they were not to sleep in. and when Kathy was in that room, I think she was using it as a sewing room. She was said to have been felt, pushed. The paranormal activity seems to have started straight away. There was cold spots around the house. There was said to be flies conjugating in 2 rooms. Kathy was said to have found one room that was not on the floor plan, but it was completely all in blood red. Her daughter saw a pig with red eyes. George used to wake up at 3:15 every night, which was the time of the murders. Now, they did say George dabbled in the occult, but George said he woke up one night and Kathy was levitating off the bed. The 2 sons were said to be levitated off the bed. Kathy was said to have aged into a 90-year-old woman in front of him. Windows and garage doors opening, closing. They were gradually getting more scared and more petrified of what was going on. What happened the last night they were there that caused them to leave the house? They lasted 28 days in this house. Their dream house they always wanted, perfect family house. They lasted 28 days, and when they said they left that morning to go to stay with Kathy's mum, they said they didn't leave under the impression that they'd never come back. So, I mean, they left furniture and everything like that. To me, yes, they were scared. They were petrified. They left the house. After this, it kind of blew up notoriety that this house was haunted. It was queried if they were telling the truth or not, if this story was viable or not. To their credit, both George and Kathy did take polygraph tests and they both passed them. And their son Daniel, I think, was interviewed only in the last few years, and he's still saying he's had after effects, and he said that house has ruined his life. So that was 2 things that stood to them after they left the house and this became famous. But what against them is they actually were bogged down in legal fees and they had a lot of debts occurred. So in a way, making this up and getting the money, getting the exposure and stuff for this would have been a financial incentive to actually make this worse than it was or what they had experienced. Remember I told you about that lovely lawyer, William Weber, who was actually Butch's defense lawyer? He was also representing George and Kathy. Something went wrong with money. William was going to lose out money, and he came out and said this was all bullshit. We made this whole story up to make money, to make everything, after a good few bottles of wine. And this kind of dispelled everyone, like, no. Because he said the whole pig thing, he had told the Lutzes that there was a fat cat that used to be around the neighbourhood and Butch used to call him Pig, and he used to be able to jump up into windows. The swarm of flies and the green ooze that used to ooze down the walls and out keyholes. William takes responsibility for that because he said he actually showed the Lutzes crime scene photographs, and all the green was dusting for fingerprints, was all the powder. So that was then transcribed into green ooze. It was the dust of the powder they used. The flies, the bodies weren't found till the next day. It was hot. Again, he showed a crime scene photo where there was flies around the bodies. Again, he said this was manifested and he claimed it was all a big hoax to make money. So it's hard to say either way. Me, personally, I am scared shitless of scary films. I have no interest in scaring the absolute bejesus out of myself. I did say then William Weber made up this story purely to solidify claim that Butch had heard voices telling him to kill his family. I wanted Butch's story to be backed up. I don't know. What's your opinion? Personally, the murders happened. Butch killed his family. People say that William Weber made up the story that it was fake purely because he was getting screwed out of money. I don't know. I think it's a little bullshitty. The writer, Jay Hansen, when he was asked did he believe the story he had written when he penned the actual Amityville horror and said it was based on true, and he said, it's not my job to believe it, I just have to write a good story. Embellishments taken, I would say so. Even though I'm scared to go to bed tonight in case some spirits come and get me for saying this, it's bullshit. And again, I'm a scaredy cat and a bit of a pessimist when it comes to these things, so I need your input. Educate me. I know they passed polygraphs and I know the son is still affected, so there has to be something, by it psychological, be things did actually happen. But then I'm like, when you talk about the crime scene photos, it all matches up of where the story could have been exaggerated. So I'm a bit on the fence, but leaning more towards it was all made up. Feel free to educate me. If you know more, please tell me, because I would love to know more of. I probably should read the Amityville horror, but I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're locked down for 6 weeks. I have enough of a horror story going on outside in the world. I don't need to be putting that shit on my head. Anyway guys, that's my story for today. I hope you enjoyed. It's the most Halloweeny one I could find. But any more ideas or any more stories you want me to look at, just let me know down below. Thank you so much for joining me today, tonight, wherever or whatever time it is. I hope you like I hope you noticed my new clips, or not unicorns but Halloween. Hey guys, thanks so much for being here today. I hope you enjoyed. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Stay good, stay cool, stay careful guys. Bye.